Hey everyone, my name is Rafael, and today we're going to be doing the Visual Studio Code Basics, in particular with the WPI-lib extension. One of the very first things that you should know about Visual Studio Code is the command palette and how to access it. So for Mac, which is what I'm currently using, it's Command-Shift-P, but for Windows and Linux, it should be Control-Shift-P. So if we go ahead and just press it, you can see that we get this little greater than sign. What this greater sign means is basically that it's a command. So if we were to delete this, we now just get the files in our folder. But if we put the greater sign again, now it's basically Visual Studio Code's way of recognizing what a command is. And so we can use this to run commands such as the default Visual Studio Code commands that you get, and then there's also the commands that come with your extensions. So in our case, we're going to be using the WPI-lib commands. So we can go ahead and just type that, and we now see all of the commands that come with the WPI-lib extension. So one of the very first things that you should probably know is how to make a robot project. So if we run this command right here, so WPI-lib create a new project, if we just press enter, we get this window. So we can see down here it's saying activating extension. So let's just wait. Okay, so you should get a window that looks like this. You typically want to start by selecting this. Now, we do not want an example, we want a template. Examples are basically just robot code examples that the WPI-lib comes with. We're going to do template. We will be programming in Java, and we always want to stick to command robots. This last option right here is basically like your file structure and how your robot ultimately comes together. Command robots, in my opinion, is the cleanest, most effective way of programming your robot, and it's also the easiest in my opinion, so that's why we're going to be selecting that one. Next, we need to find a place to put our project folder, so we can just select. I'll just select this folder. Next, we're going to enter a project name. I will just call this tutorial robot. And then for team number, we are 5667. And then this check right here, if you're not going to be doing any unit testing or simulation, so we can see right here, so we have simulation and unit testing support. Typically, you want your robot during build season to have some sort of unit testing, and we'll learn more about that later on in these tutorials. But for now, we're not going to check that because we don't need those extra dependencies. So we're just going to generate our project like that. And then we can say yes, new window, so I don't lose all of this. Alright, and then you should get a new window that pops up, and you'll have these files and folders inside. We'll learn more about what each of these files and folders are and what they do. But whenever you first create your robot, it's going to try to build the default code just to make sure that all your dependencies and everything's working correctly, that you have the right version of Java, etc. So I will just skip to whenever this is done building, and we'll continue from there. Alright, so we're done building. It took a minute and 21 seconds. Typically the first build always takes the longest because you get all of these build and setting folders that come with it. Your VS Code might not show you these hidden files or folders because I specifically set it to show me them, but in the event that you don't really need to worry. You really don't need access to these folders unless you're messing with the nitty-gritty, but other than that, you really just need the source folder right here. That's where all your robot code goes, but like I said, we're going to be going into that in another video. So if I just get rid of this, we come back. You now know how to create a robot project. Another important part to being able to understand how VS Code works and its functionality with the WPI-lib library is how to build a robot project. So once again, if you do Command-Shift-P, and I'm going to do this inside here because you will be able to see it build is Command-Shift-P. Now if we do wpi lib, and then you can just type in build, and then it'll it'll filter, and then you just press enter. We can see it running down here. Now if you take a look at what this is running, it's running /create_loop build. What that is basically just running the create_loop build file right here. So technically we don't really need to use that. If we just open a new terminal and then we just type in the same thing, we should get the exact same result, and we do. So you can see it's starting the new thread and it's going to try to build the entire project. So that's how you build a robot project. Now typically you want to build in order to expose any compile time errors, and this is in any like arithmetic errors like dividing by 0. I don't know why you would do that, but that would expose that. That way you know if there are any errors before you are trying to deploy code to the robot, because then when you try to deploy, it's going to be a lot harder to debug. So with that, deploying the robot code, the way you would deploy robot code is by opening the command palette, and then we can type in wpi lib, and then let's type in deploy, and we should see it right here. I am not going to run this because you need to be connected to the robot's RIO in order to deploy, or the robot's radio is what I meant to say. You need to be connected to the radio in order to deploy. Now, with that, as you just saw, I was able to build. So you can build robot code without being connected to an actual radio or robot. But in order to deploy, you obviously need some sort of connection to the robot. So that's why we can't do it right now, but if you were, then that's how you would deploy. The Explorer. So the Explorer is this portion right here of VSCode. So if I click on this, you should be able to see the file tree and everything that's inside the folder that you're currently in. And this is really important because this is where you make your files. So like in our GitHub example, you saw me making new files with this button right here. The way this works is by selecting the folder you would like to make it. So you can see this folder is now highlighted. So any actions perform in this folder right here. So when I press this, it'll make a new file in here. I could also do this and make a new folder. This refreshes the Explorer. So if you were to put something inside, I don't know, this folder right here, and it doesn't show up because you did it like using the Finder or like your File Explorer, you would want to refresh here and it should show up. I'm not really sure. It just collapses the folder, so I don't really use it too much, but that's basically the Explorer portion. This shows you all of your open files. So if I were to try to get 2 files open, we can now see 2 right here. And these are just the files that we have open at the moment. So I just showed you how to create new files. But in specifically with the wpi lib, library, whenever you want to create a new class, so say for example we would like to create a new subsystem, and once again we'll learn more about what that is in the next video. But if we wanted to create, say, just either a blank class or a subsystem or a command, we do not want to make a new file like this. And the reason for that is because then we will have to manually input the package. We would manually have to write the class. We would manually have to do all these other things that basically exposes us and makes us more prone to error. So what we would have to do is right click on the folder and then press create a new class / command. So if we select that, we can now either have an empty Java class, which includes the class name, the class structure, as well as the package and everything, which is super helpful. Or we could create a command group, a command, instant command, subsystem, etc. And we'll learn more about what these are. But say, for example, just for this, because the subsystem, we'll press subsystem and we'll do test subsystem, and then we'll just press enter, and that was the subsystem name. We can now see that we get this boiler template code right here, And so now we don't have to write any of this, and we get the package, the imports, all of the class code, etc. So that's how you create those files. As for the source control, that would be this button right here. This is your source control, and this typically shows you all of your GitHub tracking information. So it'll show you any unstaged or untracked files, commits. If there are any merge conflicts or anything, you should be able to see them here. This is mainly where you just want to go for your GitHub information right there. For extensions, this is another important thing. You may need to download extensions or just theme packs or anything in general. This is your marketplace. This right here is all of your installed extensions that you will have. And then these are just recommended, but if you would like to get something, so for example, in our case, the WPI lib extension, we just type that in and it will be right here. If you want to disable or uninstall, there's these buttons, and then if you don't have it, then you just press install, and that's how extensions work. But yeah, that concludes our FRC Visual Studio WPI lib tutorial. I'll see you in the next one.